Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Kristian Aksland. I work as a CTO in a company called Heime. What we do in Heime is that we create better neighborhoods through technology. We have today 60,000 homes in Norway using our platform. We span all the way from Kristiansand to Tromsø, which means that we are delivering technology from Stavanger to the entirety of Norway. My job in the day-to-day is to lead our development team, figuring out what we should develop and why we should develop it. Unfortunately, I also get to code and touch all areas of the stack on a daily basis. The unfortunate part of that is that I also suffer the consequences of my own decisions. And along the way, I started noticing something, that we're not just shipping features, we're shipping our workplace culture. Codebases don't lie, they reveal who we are and what we have done. So when I started investigating this, I was trying to read up a bit on theories and such, and there's something called Conway's Law. Has anyone of you heard about it? Yeah, some, but not all. That's great. Otherwise, we had to skip that slide. Conway's Law says, the structure of software will mirror the structure of the organization that built it. You can simplify this by saying that small distributed teams will create modular distributed systems, while big co-located teams will create monoliths. I'm less interested in this is actually perfectly true or not, and more in what it actually implies. Because when you structure teams, you're not just shaping the development side, you're shaping how you work with sales, support, marketing, legal, and all other departments and facilities of your business. Architecture has to serve whole business and your customers and even your future customers. And remember, not deciding is also a decision. If you don't shape culture, it still appears, it's just accidental. So I want to just look into something which is called, or look into how companies make decisions. Because identity shapes structure, but structure also shapes decisions. And how companies make decisions leaves fingerprints in their code. I was looking at AWS, which is a 60,000 engineers company, and software and Shopify, which is a bit smaller but still quite large. And AWS, they do something that they call six-pagers. They do this to avoid chaos and make very clear decisions. The document is often worked on by multiple people, but it always contains context, problems, options, risks, and even pricing. And what they do with this document is that they bring it into meetings before they're going to make a decision. I've heard that this structure makes the document faster to read for those that are used to this structure. So the structure helps them communicate better with all the stakeholders. And even before every meeting, or in the start of every meeting, they sit in silence together and read the document. My takeaway from this is that they want to be deep thinkers. They are conscious of their decisions and the consequences of those decisions. They are an infrastructure company, and their customers demand them to both have stability, but also come with innovative solutions. The structure might feel like a handbrake at first, but in companies like AWS, structure isn't just bureaucracy. It's a way to make better decisions faster. If you work with the structure, not against it, your ideas will travel further and have more backing from more people. Now, I want to compare that to Shopify, a Canadian e-commerce platform. I work a lot with React Native, meaning that we deliver cross-platform code to iOS and Android. And in that community, Shopify is famous for pioneering micro frontends. So why are they spending millions of dollars on pioneering this approach? It's not for technical coolness. It is cool, but that's not why they're doing it. It's not for end user value. The end user doesn't know that they're doing this, but it's for autonomy. They want highly autonomous teams, so they've built the infrastructure to support that. So architecture, culture mirrors culture, but it goes deeper. culture leaks into the little things as well. You ever find commented out code? The reason for it can be quite interesting. Maybe someone lost a debate. Maybe a PM changed their mind at 4 p.m. Maybe even a developer was scared to remove something that they didn't understand. At Heime, I saw that developers were commenting out some buttons that they were told to remove, and I knew that those buttons would never come back. But what they showed me when they were commenting out code was that they need to prepare for this to come back, because we were not very clear with our decisions, and we were going back and forth on how we wanted it to be. You have 1 or 2 of these cases, it's fine. But if you have 100 of them, that's worse, and it's a red flag. And you probably need to make some changes. So you could implement a feature flagging system. They do solve real problems, A and B tests, time rollouts, different pricing levels. Well, in my opinion, feature flagging is a fix for how you're organized. It allows developers to work asynchronously with other people in the organization. It allows stakeholders to request quick changes and those kind of changes that developers dread, because they take away focus from the current development and the current task that you're doing. I also think about how this again affects end users and customers. It might be good for customers that when you produce new features, that the customer success team has a lot of communication around these new features and the changes. But it will also end up in worse hands if the user, for example, ends up with an overly complex onboarding procedure because of the complex architecture. So my takeaway is that feature flagging is not for all. And if you instead can change a process and avoid adding complexity, you should try and do that. So I've talked about quality. So what is quality? For me, quality is not just no bugs, but it's user value. But a low amount of bugs is also user value. So how do you and your team handle testing? How do you handle bugs? Do you have a suite of automated testing, your own QA tester person, just manual testing, or are you just deploying and closing your eyes? All of these things are right in the right situations. Take automated testing. It takes development time, but it does increase confidence and should increase your speed. It's usually not prioritized in product management, but if you want to become a team that ships fast and safe, this is a must. Manual testing takes development time, but for some cases, create much more confidence than automated testing ever can. And you also end up being a user of your own software. You can also have your own QA person. Is it a luxury, or is it a way to not be accountable? This is absolutely a need for a QA tester, especially to create the structure and the organization around testing. It creates confidence, but having a QA person does not fix bugs. It just discovers them. And it's also another stakeholder to communicate to, and that can slow down your release cycles. Again, there is no suite that one thing that suits all, but being conscious about who you are and making decisions that will help you and get the right amount of testing. That brings me to fear. Someone today or tomorrow will probably talk about psychological safety. I want to talk about it in code. Fear-driven teams write process-heavy, risk-averse code. No experiments. They do not dare to work with unknowns. They don't touch files that they don't know what it's doing. While curious teams, they produce chaos. Strange prototypes, weird ideas that fail, old experiments no one understands why they were doing. At Heime, I noticed that when I was asking or we were planning new features, we didn't know everything about how some things works. So our developers, we had a lot of CI/CD, so they weren't really touching the production server and those things because it was just automated. So instead, I noticed that uncertainty, I asked them to go and poke. Go poke what they don't understand, what they don't know. So I told them, like, SSH into the server and understand how things work. You can also change things. I asked them nice to don't do it in production straight away. but could use testing and like just try and break and make sure you understand things. Because that's the paradox. Fear kills innovation long before the code does. If every mistake has big consequences, you will not have the curiosity necessary to create new and better solutions for the future. So how do you see fear or curiosity in performance? There was this DevOps research and assessment survey. It's a yearly survey that they survey around 39,000 developers. And they were asked about their impressions of both their software and their development practices. They were asked to rate the time it takes for them to go from an idea to being delivered in production, how often they ship to production, the percentage of deployments with errors, and the time it takes to restore service after a production failure. And what they found is fascinating. Teams that deploy more often also ship with fewer errors, recover faster from those errors, and move with more confidence. High velocity is not recklessness. It's psychological safety in motion. So I want to introduce a term, cultural depth. Is it another word that our stakeholders will dread when we talk about? Maybe. Hopefully, it's something that we can talk about as a common ground to what can be done better. I've talked a lot about decisions, about who you are. What if we ignore that? What if we just go in day after day writing code? Cultural depth is the habits that we accumulate. We've always done it this way. Oh, don't touch that module. Oh, I wouldn't go there. When culture is unconscious, it does become accidental. An accidental culture is the most dangerous kind because it still ships, exists, and affects your results. So, what should you do after this talk? Be even more annoyed by your job, your manager, and all those stakeholders that aren't fixing these things? We can all fix things in our products and how we work. Sometimes it might take some more than just mentioning the issue. You might even need to write a 6-pager AVS-style doc about the pros and cons of this problem. But you can always start by discussing, am I the only one with this frustration? Is anyone else experiencing this? You can take action. Look into ways of solving this frustration. Figure out why it is like it is. And you can also take ownership. I will create that proof of concept solving this problem. I will follow that these fixes will get done, and I will follow up how we can change this process. You might end up with not everyone agreeing with you. So discuss it, but sometimes you do end up in a standstill. You're just disagreeing. So rather than continuing to argue and be frustrated, create a hypothesis. Just figure out who's wrong, measure it, test it. Maybe you even were wrong, but at least you cared, and now you learned something. That's all I wanted to say today. I'll be around tonight and tomorrow, so please do come talk to me about your culture, your code base, or even your weirdest commented out code line. Keep enjoying HelloStavanger. Thank you.